Today I'm here with a special surprise guest who also happens to be my sibling. So I'm here with Cecil. So, Cecil, tell me about yourself and what you do.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I am a teacher of many things, and lately I've been teaching at the University of Washington in the anthropology department, as well as teaching for a small company here in Seattle, doing sewing lessons after school for little kids, which is so much fun.
Cool. So, what does social justice mean to you?
I would say, to me, social justice just means taking a critical approach to everything that I do. So, I, whether I'm writing curriculum or putting together a presentation or having a meeting with a student in my office, I think really critically about the language that I use and the space that I create, both physically and sort of intellectually and socially. I think really hard about the people that I interact with and the voices that I listen to and the media that I take in, and try to seek out perspectives that may be missing in my life or that are sort of marginalized in our society, not sort of, that are marginalized in our society. I think that's what it looks like in my daily life, I'd say. Yeah.
What are some ways that you promote social justice at University of Washington?
Well, in the last year or so, I've been working, or I had been before I left school recently. I had been working with the Trans Equity Working Group through the UAW Local 4121, which is the Academic Student Workers Union at the UW, to make the campus safer and more affirming of trans students, particularly trans feminine students and trans students of color, for whom the university is a really hostile place, and the world more generally is a hostile place. So we've been doing things like making information about transition-related healthcare through our student health insurance more accessible to students, and also trying to get the health insurance company to comply with our collective bargaining agreement. So they had, the university is in writing, they're supposed to provide trans-affirming healthcare, and our insurance company had been denying benefits claims outright, even though they should have been covering transition-related procedures and services. So we've been working on that, and also a project that I worked really hard on was making universal bathrooms more accessible on campus. So, all gender bathrooms that are accessible to people with different mobility needs, right? And to do that, we've been using the collective bargaining agreement that our union has with the university as leverage, as well as the Seattle City Ordinance, the Universal Bathroom Ordinance, which states that all places of public accommodation in Seattle that have single-stall bathrooms have to mark them as gender neutral. So we've been using those two things to to try to get the university to provide more gender-neutral bathrooms. And we had success, actually, just before I graduated and left the university. We finally saw success on one particular bathroom that we had been pushing the university really hard on, the bathroom in the anthropology building that we had identified as a really great candidate for conversion to gender neutral. And we filed a grievance against the university to try to get them to convert this bathroom because there were no bathrooms even within a 5-minute walking radius of the anthropology building that were gender neutral. So we filed this grievance and fought the university for months and months about this one single bathroom that literally just needed a sign change. And finally, right before I left my program, they changed the sign for us. But, I mean, it took multiple meetings with university administrators and some negative press coverage for the university. So we had done, a series of interviews with the UW Daily, and that came out right before they made the change. And it also took us doing a direct action. So we had, gathered a big group of people and made, during this direct action, we claimed the bathroom as gender neutral. So we just put a new sign on it ourselves that we bought without the university's permission, and then staged a timed walk to the nearest existing gender neutral bathroom, which took 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So that was our big action. And like I said, finally the university converted this one bathroom. But through all of our work, not only did we sort of shame the university about not converting this one particular bathroom and not having adequate access, to gender neutral bathrooms in the anthropology building, it also brought attention to how much they're dragging their feet on the issue more generally, right? So, our hope is that we've set a precedent and the university will be quicker to make those conversions in other places. And we've also been meeting with them to talk about future conversions, and there should be upwards of 100 conversions in the next few months, is the hope.
Who within the university makes those decisions about conversion to bathrooms?
So it sort of depends on the situation. In some circumstances, individual building managers can make those changes if they have agreement from everybody who's housed in the building. So all of the departments and programs that are in that building, if they all sort of come together and decide that they want to convert a bathroom to gender neutral, the building manager can make that change. But in other buildings where maybe, the departments and programs that are housed there aren't as, don't readily want to see those changes happen, then it takes administrators higher up forcing the issue. So for many years, folks in capital projects, planning and development, and the Q Center, administrators all over campus have been working together. This is what we've heard for the past 10 years on increasing the number of gender neutral bathrooms, and still it's been happening at a turtle's pace, so to speak. Yeah.
What is the campus climate like for marginalized students on campus?
Well, I can only speak for myself, of course. I would say as a white trans person, it's pretty uncomfortable. I've worked really hard to create a safe-ish space for myself within my academic department. I've, trained a few people that I work closely with to use the correct pronouns, and, I've had many conversations about language use with people in my academic program. But as soon as I go out of that, bubble, then I mean, I can't expect folks to use appropriate language around me, right? Or to like, even know to ask about pronouns or name or any of that. So I've had mixed experiences around campus in different places. But I'm, I'm white and, trans feminine people on campus, trans women, and non-binary, trans femmes, folks of color, trans people of color, I know have a really hard time on campus. I just can't speak to those experiences. But there are a lot of people on the campus that are doing really incredible work. Yeah.
Can you give some examples of some work that folks are doing?
Yeah, so there's there are Black Lives Matter activists on campus who are really active. Just a couple of weeks ago, I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, but there was a Black Lives Matter walkout on campus. A lot of folks are working on microaggressions, which has been kind of a touchy subject on campus because some folks, seem to think that it's a free speech issue. I don't really understand that perspective. But a lot of folks are working on microaggressions, trainings, anti-racism trainings more generally. There's academic workers for Democratic University, AUDU, that are doing great work on campus. Shoot, so many groups. As well as just really rad individuals who are just existing and doing their thing on campus, which I really admire, in spite of the incredibly hostile environment.
What are some big things that you think the university is lacking on in regards to supporting the marginalized students on campus?
One thing is recruitment. The university has, tried to admit more students of color, but their position seems to be that, I don't know, I mean, we're still in a position where, many students of color are the only folks of color in their department or in their academic programs or, in the offices that they work in. So we definitely have a recruitment issue, which, and we have a recruitment as well as a retention issue. And I mean, I think in order to retain students in various communities that the university claims publicly that they care about and that they want to have as a part of the university community, they really need to work on training folks, right? We need to see more anti-racism training, and that looks like microaggressions trainings. It looks like more learning around institutional and systemic oppressions, because unfortunately, oftentimes when we talk about microaggressions, we talk about individual level oppression. Then that allows us to pin the problem on certain people, right? We can say, oh, we have a retention problem or we have a recruitment problem because of a few bad apples who give the university a bad name, right? But really it's a systemic problem. So I'd say we need more more education around that. And it goes all the way from the bottom to the top, so to speak, right? Students up through administrators. Everybody really needs this information.
Is there anything you feel that the university has done to improve these issues?
All I've really seen is lip service. The University of Washington prides itself on being a progressive institution. You know, a lesbian woman of color right now is the president of the University of Washington. And I think that a lot of people take pride in that, and that's great. And also, she hasn't been able to use her position to actually make much change. For example, the Black Lives Matter UW folks in March of last year, I believe it was March, had a walkout and rally and march and submitted a list of demands to the university administration, and none of them have been fulfilled at this point. The university appointed a new dean who's, I think it's Dean of Diversity and Equity or something like that. And, what we've seen is them implementing some, there was a 3-quarter course series for students to take that the dean created around microaggressions and systemic oppression. And, we've had these campus-wide, quote, conversations, a series of events at the Intellectual House that the university president participated in. It just feels like a lot of talk. There haven't been a lot of systemic changes. We haven't seen... So, for example, the graduate school still requires that applicants answer a question about criminal record, right? And that would be prohibitive for lots of students of color, poor students. I haven't seen a lot of action from the university.
So these issues are happening at universities all around the country. Seen it at Western, it's happening at UW. What do you think it would take to make a change in the system?
I think we need new leadership. And it's not that rad leaders of color, trans leaders, undocumented leaders, it's not that these people don't exist. It's just that they're not the ones that control the education system and other institutions in our society, right? I don't know, I'd love to see leaders just cycled out, just like mass step down or something. I think we need to eliminate a lot of barriers to accessing education, right? I mentioned the box that you have to check if you have a criminal history, right, when you fill out a college application, whether that's as an undergrad or a graduate student, or in employment, right? There are physical space issues too, right? The way that the buildings on campus are set up isn't conducive to learning for a lot of folks, right? Only folks with certain learning styles are really embraced by the system. People with certain mobility needs can't even get around physically the space, right? The existence of only gendered bathrooms is really telling about who is expected to be walking the halls of a university, right? I mean, I think, shoot, we should just tear it all down and start over.
That's so interesting because an interview I had with another person was saying that they think that higher education is a place where a lot of this change can be made, especially for outside institutions. And so they were saying that we shouldn't tear it down because if we make smaller changes, eventually this institution will change and then we can change other institutions. So I think it's interesting to hear the different perspectives.
People are dying.
Yeah.
We don't have time to make little changes, right? You know, I'm a person who I hold marginalized identities, right? But I also have a lot of privilege. I'm white, I'm, quote, highly educated. I'm someone that's not viewed as being physically threatening in most spaces. I can walk around pretty safely in most of the places that I go, right? So, you know, I'm not in immediate danger. Those little changes help me, but there are people out there that are actually dying. People can't feed themselves. People are, you know, being murdered. People are being deported from their, you know, separated from their families. Like, small change doesn't help those folks.
Yeah.
Right? You know, people talk about the changes during the civil rights era, for example, and oftentimes, you know, the timeline, people see a really short timeline, right? They think of the changes that happened in the civil rights era as having resulted from, you know, direct action and activism and advocacy that happened like during the 60s in that period of time, right? But that was, you know, those changes were the culmination of several hundred years of resistance, right? I don't know, I just think it's really short-sighted to think that those small changes are enough, right? When really it takes solidarity amongst, you know, across marginalized groups. It just takes so much hard work, right? To make long-term systemic change, right?
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I'm one person with one voice and one perspective, and I'm trying to learn all the time. And I don't have a full grasp of what's going on at the University of Washington. Nevertheless, you know, what's going on in our society at large. So I realize that it's my responsibility to constantly be seeking out resources and information and knowledge and be, you know, seeking information, right? It's not the responsibility of marginalized people to educate us, right? And it's not, they shouldn't have to do all the work, right? So I'm trying to learn all the time, and I'm always trying to sharpen my, what's the metaphor I'm looking for? I don't know, sharpen my mind and my, add more tools to my tool belt, so to speak.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I appreciate you and your perspective.
Thanks.
Yeah. And thank you for Charlie and Avi, the
Yes.
dogs playing in the background.
Yeah, thanks for chatting with me.
Yeah.
Shoot, this has made me realize too that I need to reflect more on some of those questions. Right? Like, what if somebody on the bus asked me what social justice means to me, and it's really hard for me to articulate that? I don't know. Maybe I need more sound bites that I can whip out at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.